Hello everybody, this is Yoko's Anime Reactions, and oh god, I'm so tired. Anyway, let's get down to this so I can get it uploaded and not really have to think about the first episode anymore. Apparently, from what I've heard, the first episode is the only one that actually shows the really bad stuff. You know, the rape scenes. But thankfully, apparently, the rest of the show doesn't have that sort of stuff. It still has, violence, of course, but none of the other stuff, which is a big relief to me. But I actually was looking up the characters' names because you know how bad I am at remembering people's names in shows. I don't ever have to worry about this. They're only known by their titles. Goblin Slayer is Goblin Slayer. He has no name. The girl that is in episode 2 is just known as Cowgirl. Don't ask me why. I think a better time would have been Farmer, but eh. And the Priestess girl is just known as Priestess. And same for everybody else, essentially. So I don't have to worry about that as long as I remember what they are. If I can just remember, what their class is, then I should be fine. Anyway, the Priestess is wanting to become an adventurer, and she just, registered and everything, and she's wanting to be able to help people because, she's got healing abilities. And she ends up joining another group of rookie adventurers that are planning to go after some goblins. And the way that the guild lady is talking about the goblins, and I'm like, why don't you guys get a veteran fighter to go with you guys as well? Have the rookies and then have an expert fighter to go with you in case shit hits the fan. Then you can not only back the person up, but you have safety in more numbers. Because even if you have 4 party members, it doesn't guarantee you're gonna be able to survive it. Because if there's enough goblins in that cave, they get overwhelmed, even if they're not very strong. However, they don't. They are just so gung-ho, thinking they can take out goblins, thinking that they're weak, and it's not that they're weak. They are not weak, and they are not stupid. They are smart enough. And that is not a good thing. And I've actually been watching other people's reactions to this, and their reaction is how you would expect to react to seeing a female character getting raped. Yeah, their reactions are exactly how you would expect it to be. Shock. And, they go into the cave, and, the guy should have had a shorter sword, because that sword was not equipped to deal with caves, because as we see, he bangs it on the ceilings and the walls because of the way he's swinging it. Either he doesn't know how to use that sword properly, or he's got too big a sword. Compensating for something much? Anyway, the goblins end up ambushing them from behind and use a dagger on the wizard and stab her in the abdomen with it. The way they had her pinned, I thought this is where we were gonna get that rape scene. No. Thankfully, the others show up and try to defend her, and the priestess tries to heal her, but she healed her, but that wasn't enough. And that whole banging the sword on the ceiling when he's swinging it kind of comes back and bites him in the butt because he ends up getting ambushed by a bunch of goblins and subsequently killed by being essentially stabbed to death. Essentially, they hit him to death, essentially. The fighter girl, she goes in to try and help out. She takes out a few goblins. She's kind of like a monk, fighter type character. However, she would have handled it might have been able to handle it on her own had the hobgoblin not shown up. Yeah. Hobgoblin knocks her around, and this is where the whole, the unsavory scene pops in, where she tells the priestess to run and take the wizard with her, because, she wants them to survive, obviously. And it's at this point it gets bad. They don't show it, thankfully. They just imply it with her screaming. But yeah, they imply it with not only, I mean, with if you just heard the screaming and didn't see anything else, you would think they were stabbing her or something. No, they tore off her clothes. So yeah, you better believe that there's something unsavory is gonna happen. Anyway, the two of them get ambushed again by some more goblins, and the goblins try to do the same thing to the wizard girl, who's barely hanging on at this point. Thankfully, a guy shows up in full heavy armor and takes the goblins out easily, and we find out he is Goblin Slayer, aka the title of the show. And I forgot to mention, yes, Goblin Slayer won. Goblin Slayer won the poll. Sort of. Anyway, I forgot to mention that I am doing a review for Goblin Slayer episodes 1 and 2. That's all I've recorded so far. And hopefully I can get more recorded once my nephews go outside to play. I hope. And, yeah. Thankfully, we find out that the reason that her healing didn't really help is because the girl was poisoned with that dagger, essentially. And actually, I've been watching other people's reactions and reading the comments, and someone actually pointed out something that makes perfect sense as to how the goblins, how they are, essentially. Because as far as we see in these episodes, we do not see any female goblins. That's all. Only male goblins. And you're probably wondering, well, how were they supposed to procreate and be able to survive and not go extinct? Well, the whole raping thing comes into play here. Because obviously no other species would consent to having sex with the goblin at this point. So that's their only option in order to procreate. And that's essentially what they do. Because later on in the episode, we see after he gets to the main back of the area where they have the girl at, and the shaman, the goblin shaman, and all the others, and he kills all them, and he goes to the back and sees 4 goblin kids. That's where what happened to those poor girls that were taken in the initial quest, where the village was attacked and the women were taken, and that's what they were there for. Yeah, the poor women were raped, and apparently the gestation period for goblins in this show is 1 to 3 days. So that's where those kids came from. And no, they were not some half-human, half-goblin things. No, they look like they were full goblin. So that's how the goblins procreate. Which sucks for any female in the world, because if they get inside of a goblin, they are in trouble, essentially. And I can understand the priestess's view not wanting to kill all the goblins because there could be good goblins out there, but as far as we can tell, there aren't any. Only good goblin is a dead goblin. Or one that does not show its face to the light of day. Because, like I said, as far as we know, there's no good goblins in this world. And he obviously kills off the goblin children because, they will grow up and they will learn from this and adapt and become stronger and go after more people. So it's a vicious cycle that he has to try and stamp out before it can continue. And after this, the priestess decides she wants to join his party. Episode 2... Oh, yeah, they had to kill the wizard lady because they did have an antidote, but it was too late. The antidote wouldn't have worked. So he gave her a merciful death. And the fighter girl survived, but obviously she is traumatized by this whole thing. And considering they had raped her, it wouldn't surprise me if she ends up giving birth to a goblin child later on. Because, like I said, the gestation period from what I've seen is 1 to 3 days from what someone said in a comment. Not on this video, but a different Goblin Slayer reaction. Anyway, yeah, episode 2, at first, I thought that the 2 kids that were arguing were brother and sister. No, they are childhood friends. And I'm thinking that the boy is the original Goblin Slayer, the one that grows up to be the Goblin Slayer. The girl goes off to town because, she's doing something for town, I can't remember. And it's probably a good thing that she was in town at the time because I think either that very same day or later on before she comes home, goblins attack the place. And her parents are killed. I'm assuming that the Goblin Slayer's sister was more than likely captured, raped, and then afterwards eaten or killed, whatever. Anyway, we find out that he's still in contact with her, and she knows that that's him, essentially. And he's making sure to keep everybody safe by checking the place for any disturbances, any, footprints, any broken places, or anything. And we find out that he only takes goblin jobs, essentially. Goblin slaying jobs. And they hear of a few places that were attacked by goblins, and he goes to fight with the castle, I think. And they manage to take out all the goblins, thankfully. And thankfully, Cowgirl, what the fuck? A cowgirl's home is thankfully safe at this point. How long that will last, though, we will see. And nobody has any respect for Goblin Slayer. I mean, goblins are not anything to be sneezed at, essentially. They are dangerous. They are evil creatures as far as we know. And there's no redeeming qualities about them. Anyway, I'll see you guys next time.